Hey there everyone, and welcome to episode 22 of our Let's Play series for Football Manager 2016. Alrighty, so we've had a bit of a bad run in the last episode, a couple of bad defeats in the Champions League, which means our Champions League unfortunately is probably over for this season. I mean, obviously there's another 4 games to go, so it's not over yet, but very, very difficult to recover from this position, especially in the group that we're in. Had a bad defeat in the Eredivisie as well, so struggling for form a little bit at the moment. And also there's been an update since today's the, must be the 12th, 11th, 12th? 12th of November today. And there's been an update overnight. SI Games have released an update to the beta game, and apparently it's basically going to be what the release candidate of the version is going to be. The unfortunate thing is that they didn't actually release a patch notes or a changelog or anything like that, so no one really has any idea what's changed. They're sort of, which I find a little strange to be honest. They've sort of based it on the fact that it's going to be the release candidate, so people don't really need to know what's changed. But anyway, so for us, we're not really quite sure what's changed. There's been some reports that the match engine has changed, and some tactics and stuff aren't working as well before. I'm not too concerned because ours is should be a fairly reasonable tactic in terms of our setup. Like I think the tactical framework and the roles and all that kind of stuff is sort of fairly well based in real life. I think it should work, but I'm going to keep a very close eye on it in the next couple of games. So actually all of our tactics, I'm going to probably try all 3 of them out over the next maybe 3 games or something. See how they play through, so if there's any sort of major problems, because there were some reports around fullbacks positioning being very, very bad, and that was teams were conceding a lot through crosses. Yeah, so I will definitely keep an eye on that, guys, and see what happens, see how we go. Alrighty, so what are we looking at in terms of our schedule? A couple more Eredivisie games, PEC and PSV, and then an away game against Roma. Then after that's an Eredivisie game, and then a Dutch Cup, then an Eredivisie, and then Champions League. So lots of varied games at the moment. What I think I'll do, I'll sort of run through the game. I think actually what I'm going to do is set up some tutoring and stuff. I haven't done it yet. I probably should have done it a little bit earlier, actually, to be honest. I'll set up some tutoring for the team, for the squad, for some of our young guys, since our team is fairly settled now. Got all of our guys out on loan and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and then I'll probably run through and probably pick it up in the PSV game, because the PSV game is usually a fairly big game. And then we'll sort of run through the PSV, the Roma, and then probably skip ahead to maybe the Dutch Cup. So I'm pretty keen on getting a good result in the Dutch Cup this year. I'd like to pick up a piece of silverware in this season. So that should be what we'll do. Alright guys, I'll pause the video and we'll be back in shortly. Alright, and it's game day with PSV, so we're going to do a little bit of an analysis on PSV and see how they've been going. Obviously been playing very well in the league, or actually no, look at that, they haven't actually been any worse than us, so I thought we were doing very poorly, but they're actually doing worse than us, which is interesting. So, do a quick little analysis on them. We know pretty much their team already, so I'm not really too fussed about that. Obviously Marcus Henriksen, one of their best players, quite a very creative player. Very good visionary. He lacks a little bit in flair, which is interesting. So, yeah, he's been doing well. Not playing that amazing well. We've got 3 assists though, so we have to keep an eye on him. Who else have they got? Striker's got 3 goals, 2 assists. He's been playing very well, so keep an eye on him. He's fairly reasonable on the right foot, so we could potentially show him onto the right foot. See what happens though. Alrighty, so mainly interested in their tactics and things. So they're always playing with a 4-3-1-2 narrow. Yep, so this kind of formation, which is interesting. So it's what they played last season. I think we did fairly well with a sort of stock standard response to this is we play narrower to sort of block up the midfield, but then we actually exploit the flanks and look for the overlap and things, basically to take advantage of our domination down the wings, our man personnel dominations. We've got 2 men out wide. They've only got 1, so we've should be able to get the outnumbering and the overlaps out wide. And if we play narrow, basically, because it's going to be 3-on-4 in the midfield, 3 of ours, 4 of theirs, just to stop them sort of overrunning us through the middle. And we're going to try and force them out wide where possible. And yep, see what happens. So that's fine. So look at their tactics. Yeah, it's fine. So nothing really stands out there. Obviously, they've faced the 4-1-2-3 the most, and they've actually conceded the most against that. That's not really too surprising though. Interesting, right? So what about goals? Alright, goals. So nothing too much really. A lot through the middle, which is probably not really surprising, considering the formation they're playing. A lot of I wouldn't have thought they're going to have too many crosses and stuff come in, but we'll see that now. Actually, fair few crosses, which is interesting. So thinking probably their fullbacks are probably going to be the ones doing that. Keep an eye on that. Assist locations sort of actually spread out wide as well, which is interesting. So could be two reasons. Given their formation, it could be their fullbacks getting up very forward. If that's the case, we may look at man marking them to try and shut them down. And if that's where sort of a lot of their assists are coming from, we should be able to shut them down fairly easily. Or it's maybe their strikers drifting wide, or it could even be like their attacking midfielder, their attacking playmaker. Depends on what role he's set onto. Like, so sort of like a some of the roles sort of get a lot of movement sort of horizontally across the pitch. They do sort of drift, whereas some of them sort of stay in the hole in here. It just depends what the role is. So we'll have a look at where their assists are, and we should be who has their most assists, I should say, and then we should be able to work out where they're actually coming from and maybe shut them down. Nothing really jumps out here. Probably a little bit more of conceding out wide down their right as well, which is interesting. So might attack down our left. So we'll keep an eye on that. Pass, cross, long ball, opposition mistake, through ball. Nothing really jumps out there, to be perfectly honest. Few headers as well, which obviously does suggest they're getting some crosses in from out wide. We'll keep an eye on that. Place shots is the main one though, which is not surprising. Alrighty, so that's pretty much everything. I don't really see a whole lot of point looking at much else. A lot of shots out here on the left actually, and out here, which potentially could indicate you've got players coming in from wide. Not really quite sure, to be honest. Goals, where they saw their goals from? Mainly through the middle here, some sort of out wide on the right a little bit more. Yeah, I'm not really sure we should read too much into that. So what you're looking here is their assists. So who've got their assist? Midfield centre, striker, AMC, defender right. So he's got 2. Pereira's got 5 of their goals and 3 of their assists. He's actually into those, so that's probably a pretty good result for us. He looks like he's been their playmaker. He's scored quite a bit, so he's done well, so he's out. So that should be a good thing for us. Yeah, so their assists. So obviously MDES, I'm going to thinking he's probably going to be he's got 3 goals and 3 assists. He's probably going to be the one, maybe the deep lying playmaker, I suspect. Don't think we can see it from here. No, we can't. So you obviously can't see their roles, what they're actually playing, but we'll keep an eye on that. Yeah, so I'm thinking he's probably going to be their deep lying playmaker who sort of drifts out wide a little bit more. Don't think you can really see. I don't think you actually get down to the level of where their actual assists, what kind of assists they are for individual players. Although I would have thought there would be, their stats for everything else, I would have thought there would be, I'd like to see where his assists actually come from, whether they're their passes or are they crosses, so I actually sort of see which positions he's taking up on the field. I don't think there's any way I can say that though from memory, from looking through all the stats and stuff, so let me know if I'm wrong, guys, and that would be good. Alrighty, so I haven't really seen too much, to be perfectly honest. I think the main thing is sort of our formation. I'm pretty happy to play this formation. I think this is probably a good one, sort of 3 in the middle. It's got this defensive midfielder here, which should be a good sort of foil for their attacking midfield. It means we've got sort of a player in the same area of the pitch as them. And yeah, we should do fairly well. Alrighty, so who's going to play? So obviously Kenny T is still out. Van Rijn is going to start. Veltman is going to start. Heininger, no, you're not going to start. I think I'm going to put in Hendricks. He's only 90% though, so maybe we'll put in Wesley. Obviously he's quite young, probably not quite up to the level of playing this one yet. We'll give him a go. Maybe we should put in Heininger. I'm just a little bit worried about Heidinger's pace these days. I suppose I haven't dropped too much, and he's probably the better player, really, better positioning, marking, tackling, bravery, composure, all that kind of stuff. So, all right, we'll put a Heidinger. Give him a go, since Hendricks isn't quite ready to play yet. Dykes or Boyleson? We're going to put Boyleson in. He's been he's actually my favourite, though Dykes has had sort of the better run, 7.66. Don't pay too much attention to ratings, though, to be perfectly honest. Sort of mainly around, the type of fit for the player and all that kind of stuff. Barzaware is going to play in centre mid. I know Boylison's actually 84%, so that's an easy decision. It means Dykes starts. Cool, done. All right, didn't say that. So I should probably take Boyleson out to give him a rest, and Vigiva can Flynn on the left if we need him to. Barzaware is going to start in the middle in that defensive midfield role. Sinkgraven's not going to start. Nemanja G is going to get that role. Where is he? There he is. He's going to be attacking midfield there. Jensen's been playing absolutely brilliant, so I'd probably give him another run. His condition, match sharpness are good. Eunice is not. He needs a little bit more match time. Same with Duarte. I think what we're going to do... El Ghazi's obviously injured, so I'm thinking Nuri's going to play... Fisher's going to play on the left, and Nuri is going to play on the right. Milik is going to start as well. So I think that's pretty much everything that I want. Vergiva's going to be in there. Hendricks can be in there as well. So now put in Wesley, as can be the sort of the defensive midfield sub. Put in John, we'll put in Christoph Ayer, he'll be a good sub if we can get him some game time. Probably Eunice as well, I'm thinking. We actually put in a couple, can't we? Let's put in Eunice and Sinkgraven. There we go. Alright guys, that's going to be our lineup for this match. Double check it's all good. Yep, good. Alrighty. So, home game against PSV. This will be very get a win, I think, here. I've actually gone with this is only first time they've actually started, second time they've only started with this formation, so that doesn't really change anything. It's sort of like a one-on-one, you know, sort of basically playing the same formation, so we match each other out. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm sort of willing to go toe-to-toe with them and see who comes out better. Gonna have a quick look at these players though, see how they're going. So, Crone Daly, so he's obviously not very quick, so I'm not too worried about that. So she's got rubbish physical condition, so he's probably not going to last for too much longer. So, fairly strong, very strong on the right. So he's going to cut in. He's going to want to cut in, which is fine. So who's their striker? What's he? So he's actually a very good header. So I actually think we're going to funnel them inwards. Given our centre backs aren't amazingly good at heading, and he's got 17 heading, although his jumping reach is only 13. But we don't want to give him any free headers, given his 17 heading is 17 off the ball, which means he's going to take some really good positions, and he could get some free headers in there, which is definitely what we want. Not what we want. So I think I'm actually going to encourage them, maybe a little risky, actually encourage these guys to actually come into the centre and try and block them out that way. So he may actually still play narrow to try and actually block up the centre of this pitch. Or block up this centre of this pitch, I should say. And so we'll play narrow and try and funnel them inwards. And what about Emnes? Because you're fairly quick, aren't you? And you're crossing. Yeah, crossing's not amazing, but yeah, so only reasonable on your left, right? So that's probably an easy decision. We'll play you. Probably bring both the wide guys in. And what about you? How you've been going? Not too bad. What about you, actually? Weak on your left. I'm almost tempted to actually funnel the fullbacks in as well. Don't want to sort of overload the centre of the pitch, though. It could be an interesting sort of ploy to do, though. Because you're only reasonable on your right, aren't you? Yeah, so both the fullbacks are sort of weaker on their inside foot. We're going to try it. We're going to give it a go. I'll watch the match fairly closely, make sure nothing sort of gets out of hand. So, weaker foot. Emnes on the right. We're going to funnel you onto your left. And Crone and Daly are going to funnel you onto your right. Defender left, funnel you onto your right, and defender right onto your left. There we go. I think you're fairly strong on both feet, aren't you? So only reasonable on your right. We'll give it a go. We'll put you onto your right foot to see how that goes. Not sure. We're going to close down Henriksen quite quickly because he's probably one of their better players. Just try and close down their midfield a lot, so proper. Henriksen and Ebesilio there. So close all of those guys down fairly quickly. I think Djordjevic, I need to try and tight mark you as well. Make sure you can't get any free headers. Alrighty, so that's that one. And we'll just say for the fans, I usually listen to my assistant. He usually does the right job. I'm looking stressed, Ruben Jensen. Alright, so yeah, it didn't make a difference. Anyway, that's fine. Cool. Alrighty guys, I'm going to pause the video and we'll be back soon. Quick little update, guys. I forgot to show you. I just realised I forgot to show you this. So I've actually dropped our width down to balance, which is normally fairly wide. We're exploiting both flanks. I'm actually going for a look for the overlap as well. So I basically try and get some of our guys forward, and you know, hopefully get get some width and stuff and overload them on the flanks. And we're playing a little bit more, and I may even drop this down to fairly narrow. I'm not quite sure we want to do that yet. So I'm doing fairly well in the first 10 minutes or so. Fairly happy with that. Alrighty guys, we'll be back soon. Alrighty guys, 2-2 at half time. A bit disappointing to concede a couple of the goals. Both the PSV goals have come from times where our guys haven't followed our instructions. Have actually come from crosses, so that's been interesting. I think we've been the better team. We've absolutely dominated possession, around 61% of possession. I think we've had the better chances. So I'm actually fairly happy. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to actually do a yeah, for the fans. Alrighty, I'm going to, if I can get into it, I'm going to do a little bit of analysis here. Can't show you, well, I probably could show you the highlights. I'm not going to yet, though. I'll show you those at the end of the game. What I'm going to do is do a little bit of an analysis here to see how our little changes and stuff are going. So, first thing we're going to look at is passes. So, we can't see really too much there. I don't think quite a bit out wide out here. This is for PSV, by the way, so they're obviously coming down this way. Yeah, so they're coming down from a lot sort of out down their right, which is something we may have to look at. So it looks like a lot of their play spreading out out to the right out here. So what about intercepted passes? Yeah, not too much there. Received passes. Yeah, not too much there really either. Yeah, so a lot of all their key passes have come out in the right here. So that's probably Mnez, I think 8 and 9. 8 or 9. I think 9's Mnez. So I have to keep it. Yeah, that's Mnez. So who's 8? 8's there. Henriksen and then David Proper up. So probably Henriksen, Mnez is having a very good game. You have to keep an eye on him. Maybe look at shutting him down a little bit more. Rightio. So you actually see they're all sort of out wide coming in, which is probably, this is the one that led to a goal, by the way, this one. So you actually see these are all times where our guys haven't followed the instructions properly to funnel him inwards, because we basically want to prevent this. We basically don't want him to be able to hitting shots inwards on his right foot. We want him to be going on his left. So we keep an eye on that. Right, so that's that. What about shots here? You've already seen those, the goals, missed target, saved, yep, nothing really too much there. Alright, crosses. So you used to see they've hardly had any completed crosses, but they've only had a couple there, which is good, received, yeah. So they haven't had any crosses, which is good. So it shows our tactical plan is sort of working fairly well, I think. So, aerial challenges, they haven't had, obviously not many crosses either, but they have had one there. Didn't end up in a goal, which is good. They've won a fair few in here. What about ones they've lost? So actually they have lost a bunch in here, which potentially suggests that we should be putting in a few more headers, potentially. So, interesting. Alright, I'll keep an eye on that. Missed headers, key headers, alrighty. Tackles, one, lost. A lot of tackles out wide, actually, so it shows they're sort of tackling our fullbacks and stuff, which is not too surprising, really. Our fullbacks, especially Van Ryn's having a bit of a storm of a game, so our fullbacks are very, very attacking, and they're actually getting a lot of benefit for us. So they're playing really well. Having that overlap down the flanks and exploiting the flanks as well is playing really well. Missed tackles there. So this is all PSV, by the way, in case you guys hadn't seen that. So successful interceptions, missed interceptions, shot block, set pieces, scoring chances, saves, movement. What about movement here? It's not too much really. Mnez a couple of times. He only once down the right though, so it's not too much. What about mistakes? Missed interceptions, lost ball. That's all. Alrighty, average position. So with the ball. Interesting. So do they make substitutions? I have to have a look at that in a minute. So Santiago Arias. So obviously that's their right fullback. There's their left fullback. That's Crondale, the left attacking midfielder. That's Mnez, their attacking right midfielder. That's their striker. 33. I'm not sure who you are. That's Henriksen. Yeah, Proper and Ebesillo. So that's their three midfield here. I wonder if they've actually made substitutions I didn't see. I also have to keep an eye on that. So there's a few sort of players here that I'm not really quite sure why they're here. Alright, so with the ball, nothing too much here. Obviously, Crondale's deli is playing in very narrow, which is not too surprising, whereas Mnez is playing a lot further out. Jetro Williams is playing a lot more attacking than their right fullback, so that's also something interesting. Their sort of midfield are actually quite a long way back. They're not really getting a whole lot of service forward, which is good for us. It means we've pinned their midfield back, which means Henriksen, who's their attacking midfielder, should be making a lot more runs forward to actually link up with their wide players and also their striker. So their striker has actually been quite isolated, which is good for us. What about without the ball? Not a whole lot of difference, really. They're playing quite narrow without the ball, as you can see here. Their fullbacks are in a lot further. So that's maybe something we're going to have to look at potentially. We should maybe stretch the play a little bit further, which is interesting. Not too much there. That's fine. Positional heat maps probably don't really tell us a whole lot. Not really. All right. Although it does tell us that they're playing out on the right a lot more. So maybe we're going to have to look at shutting down Mnez a little bit more, or maybe making our left fullback in Dykes a little bit less attacking, perhaps. Maybe make him sit back a little bit more. Could be something. Or even getting, who's playing out left? Fisher. Attacking midfielder left in Fisher to actually maybe track back a little more. This bit down here isn't surprising given that Van Rijn has been the most attacking fullback. So this is probably their players come out here to defend. So we'll keep an eye on that. So a few things we've learnt there, which is fine. What about for us? What about Ajax? What about our passing? So this is completed. So obviously we're coming from left to right. So you can see where a lot of our players coming down this right area down here. You can see sort of a big cluster over here where there's not one over here. So you can see a lot of our players coming down the right, which is interesting. I think it's working fairly well. I'm quite happy with that. Haven't got a problem with any of that there, which is fine. Problem we've got is not a whole lot of penetration into the centre here, which is sort of evidenced by the sort of the stats. Excuse me, stats as well. By I think we've only had 4 or 5 shots on target, which is not really a whole lot for a whole half of football. So we're not getting a whole lot of penetration into the box, which we could look at maybe playing more through balls, getting our guys to maybe play more through balls, or getting our fullbacks to cross less, try and make them hold onto the ball a little bit more. We could look at dropping back a little bit and try and draw them out so that gives us a little bit more room to actually run and get our runners in. We could look at making our inside forwards sit in a little bit further and try and get them to run into the box a little bit more. There's a few things we could look at trying. Not getting a whole lot of penetration there though. What about PSV? They've had pretty much nothing either. They've got a couple here, so a few here and there, but not a whole lot, which is also good for us. So what about us? Intercepted passes, that's fine. Out of play, received. Yeah, so you haven't really hardly got any received passes in the box in here. Shows we're not getting a whole lot of like through balls, a lot of penetration from our players. Should be getting a little bit more. I mean, obviously we've got a bunch over here, which is probably to be expected given we've got a lot more play out to the right out here. But yeah, it's something we probably have to look at a little bit further. Alrighty, so that's interesting. Key passes, yeah, so most of them been down the right out here, which is also not surprising either. There's Van Rijn, the number 2. So all these 2 number 2s have been Van Rijn. He's been playing very, very well. So who's 35? That's Dykes. That's actually, yeah, so the fullbacks. So as you can see there, our fullbacks having a lot of responsibility on the ball, getting a lot of success, which is good. Alrighty, crosses. How many have we had? So we've obviously had a lot more crosses than they have. So these are corners, I believe. Yeah, they would be corners. We've only had 2 crosses sort of from open play here. Both have been Van Rijn. Intercepted ones, we've had a few in there. Received. Yeah, that's interesting. Aerial challenges. So we've won. So like we said, we've won a whole bunch in here. So we actually did score from a header. I think Milik scored in the first half from a header. So it's potentially something we should look at a little bit more. So we either basically, I think we can actually take the view that we should cross a little bit more and try and get some headers in there. May look at some of their centre backs as well, see how their centre backs are in terms of heading. Or we can try and get more sort of penetration, like from through balls and getting some cutting in from the wings. So we lost, yeah, so we lost one here as well, which is disappointing. I don't think it led to a header though. It's Heitinga made a mistake there. Fisher lost that one there. So generally for headers, you want to look at 2 things. You want to look at the ones that you've won in your opposition half to see if you're getting a lot of success from in the opposition area. And you want to look at ones you've lost in your own penalty area. So if you're getting a lot of lost ones in here, suggest that maybe you should be looking to close down their wingers a bit more or show them inwards, or maybe even replace one of your central defenders with someone who can head a little bit better. So that's fine. They haven't had a whole lot of crosses. We haven't had to worry about that, so that's okay. Tackles, 1, yeah, so we're at lost. So we haven't lost any now. The same sort of thing. You want to have a look at lost tackles in this area, because if you're losing tackles in this area, it's bad. Because you're losing tackles in your own sort of penalty box or just outside it. It's it's showing that you're not really doing that well. So you've sort of got to look at why that's happening. But we haven't had any lost tackles in this whole sort of defensive area, which is very, very pleasing. So it shows that when we need to, we've done fairly well. Interceptions. Successful, a lot of successful ones out here, which is not surprising given they're playing down the right out here. So this is our left, obviously, so this is actually down there, so it's fine. I've only missed a couple in here, nothing too much, I don't think to worry about. Scoring chances, saves, movement, so not too like Van Rijn's had a number of run paths, and Dykes has had a couple as well, which is interesting. What about mistakes? Missed interceptions, so Van Rijn a couple of times, Nemanja G and Dykes there. Lost the ball a couple of times, Barzaware and Heitinga. And that's pretty much it. It's not really too much. I'm not too worried about that. Alrighty, positions with the ball. So, right. So you can actually see sort of a comparison here. Our centre backs are sort of just off the. This is both with the ball, the way. So this is basically our attacking formations. So this is us. You can see our centre backs here are just off the sort of the circle here. So that's basically our defensive line. This is our defensive line across here. So this is how it shows how high we're playing up. If you come over to PSV, their centre backs are sort of all the way back down here. So they're playing a lot deeper than what we are. So we're actually playing a lot further. So I'm actually almost tempted, given they're playing fairly deep. Well, it's not massively deep. It is relatively deep. It's not hugely so. But given that they're sort of playing fairly deep, what about without the ball actually? So not too much of a difference actually really for them. Obviously a little bit for us and a little bit. So sort of not too much of a difference. Given they are sort of playing fairly, we're playing a lot more high up on the defensive here. So this is our defensive line. It hasn't changed too much, whereas theirs has dropped back a little bit, probably a little bit further than ours. Ours hasn't changed too much really. Yeah, so given they're actually playing quite deep, I'm almost tempted to actually get us to drop a little bit deeper. And you may sort of think that's a little bit of a counterintuitive thing to do, and so you don't always want to drop deeper because it can mean your lines are strung out, and it means you can struggle to get your ball forward, like get it vertically forward. But if it can have the benefit of when they're playing quite deep, if you drop back a little bit further, it actually draws them out and it draws them forward and gives you a lot more room to run past and get some more through balls. Given we haven't had a whole lot of penetration with our passing into their box, I'm actually thinking we may try that in the first sort of part of this second half and see how that goes, see if we actually get any more success. So we'll actually drop back a little bit deeper, which means our whole team sort of drop back a little bit, which in turn is going to force them to actually push up a little bit to basically counter us, to make, because we're going to having the ball a little bit more deep, which means their players to defend and engage, they're going to push forward a little bit, which means it's going to give us a lot more room down the sides and sort of hopefully getting a lot of some more through balls and things like that. So we'll try that without the ball. What about us? That's fine. So with the ball, we've got a fairly good spread here. I'm actually fairly happy with this. You'd see our midfield is far sort of more balanced to what theirs is. So if we switch over to PSV, you can see they're sort of, this is 8, 16 and 6 of their three midfield players. You see they're quite deep. They're quite isolated from their striker. Whereas you look at us, we're actually quite a long way further forward. So you actually see 27. This is our sort of attacking player. He's a little bit further than our box-to-box, which is what you want. You want him to be a little bit further forward. And then Buzzaware is fairly deep. I mean, he actually is a little bit, potentially a little bit too high up. I'd probably sort of see him sit back a little bit more, but he's a deep laying playmaker, so he's sort of not a defensive anchor or anything. So he's not just going to sit here in front of the back four. He does sort of get forward and get involved in the play, which I'm not too worried about. It's sort of a side effect of the way we play. Another interesting thing to note is Fisher is a lot further forward than Nuri, so that's something potentially we'll have to look at, whether we should get Nuri a little bit further forward, potentially. But I think we're fairly well balanced with the ball, so I'm pretty happy with that. So without the ball, again, we're pretty good. Probably have Buzz where I preferred him a little bit further back, maybe just block up this area just a little bit. Given they don't have an AMC, I'm not too worried about that really. Fisher probably needs to be back a little bit further as well, so potentially we could look at bringing him back a little. Given a lot of their attacks are coming down this right, you actually see Dykes is a little bit probably further forward than Van Rijn. So what I'm thinking about doing, so Dykes, the centre, the complete wing back on the left is actually, I think, the attacking one, and I think the wing back on the right is the support role. So I may actually switch those around, may make Van Rijn the attack and Dykes the support, and actually that's just going to bring him back a little bit. And Fisher, try and maybe even get him to man mark their fullback. See how that goes. Just to maybe hopefully get a little bit more defensive solidity down that right hand side. Because we do have the box to box out here, so the box to box should sort of make this a little bit more sort of defensively solid on this side. Alright, so that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Positional heat map for us. Yeah, a lot of our play, as you can see, a lot of our players coming down this right-hand side. Not too surprising, nothing really surprising there. So that's fine. So we've learned a fair bit, I think. I don't think it's really worth really looking at individual stats. We're going to be here all day otherwise. We've got another half of football to go. And we're at 28 minutes on the episode already, so that's probably enough of me rambling on about that. So what we're going to do in terms of team instructions, I think I'm going to leave our width fine. I think we're going to leave the exploit the flanks and overlapping as well on. I'm fairly happy with that. What we are going to do, we've only got a normal defensive line. I'm actually going to drop back and say slightly deeper, which is fine. I'm actually going to switch on run at defense. Basically, I want this. Basically, I'm doing this for two reasons. So these sort of dribbling ones here, like you can see these dribble less. It's basically like a pass first mentality. So it's sort of a lot more of a stationary thing, whereas run at defense, it sort of encourages your players to get the ball and take players on. Given that what we're doing, given that our problem we had, we sort of probably didn't have enough penetration into the right into their penalty box. I actually put on run at defense. So we're going to drop back a little bit, which is hopefully going to open up a little bit more space behind. Basically, then I want to get our guys to, especially our wide players now, striker, actually get the ball and run at them, which hopefully is going to open up a lot of space and stuff. And then, they're sort of running. So, for example, you've got the right attacking midfielder here, inside forward, running at the players, running at their defense here. He naturally draws players to him, which in turn should, in theory, open up some sort of, some gaps in the middle for us to exploit. So that's the whole idea behind that. We're going to do that. What we're going to do in terms of our defensive solidity on the left, so actually I was wrong. The complete win back on the left is actually on the support role. So we do have Fisher on the attack though, which is probably why he's getting drawn back a little bit. So I'm going to try something. I don't always like doing this, but I'm actually going to come in here and mark the right fullback. Can have a sort of a negative effect that it can get drawn too deep, and you sort of will probably get warnings about that from your assistant saying, he's been drawn away from the position because he's man marking. I usually ignore those because in an attacking sense it shouldn't matter. It should only matter in the defending part of the game. When they're attacking, he should just play his normal role and get forward. He's not going to man mark their fullback when he's attacking, so that should be fine. So I'm just going to leave that on there. I'm just going to probably leave the left, I think. Keep an eye on that, see how it goes. I'm actually tempted. I'm actually going to try something. I'm going to take off exploit the left and leave that on. So I hope that means our guys, maybe Dykes will sit back a little bit further, make us a little bit more solidified on the left, and then just going to keep that a lot of that attacking on the right. So obviously Nuri, I suppose because excuse me, Fisher was a lot further forward than Nuri. I mean, it probably makes sense given he's attacking inside forward and Nuri is the support. I think Nuri is sort of natural player things as well. He sort of doesn't have the natural cutting in, and he's not really an attacking midfielder. He's only accomplished there. So he's usually he's more of a central player. So it's probably fairly natural for him to actually sort of stay out there a little bit further. And he's actually more strong on the right than he is on the left, which also, again, naturally encourages him to stay out wide a little bit further, which I'm not too worried about that. I think it's been working well because he drifts in a little bit narrow, which gives Van Rijn a lot of room to attack down the flank. Alrighty guys, 31.5 minutes. I've probably rambled on way too long for that, so hopefully you guys found that interesting, a little bit of analysis there. It could completely not work at all, but we'll see how it goes. Alright guys, I'm going to pause the video and we'll be back soon. Alright guys, just want to show you a little bit of a thing. So the game, obviously the second half's only been running for a few minutes. This is sort of a perfect example of what we've changed, or a bit of an idea of how we've actually sort of changed our attacking setup. We sort of just won the ball back a little bit before, so I'm going to show you here, just to switch it back a little bit. So, see here, this is sort of the build up of the play here. So it's coming out here. Fisher picks up the ball. I'll switch it over to the 2D, by the way, just so you can actually see the full pitch and actually see where everyone's moving. Actually, a lot easier to see in the 2D your sort of formation and the movements. It can be can be difficult sometimes in the 3D engine. So you can actually see initially here. You actually see what's happened is, as we mentioned, Nuri's sort of not a natural sort of inside forward side, but he's sort of more of a natural centre player. So it's natural for him to drift in a little bit further. And you actually see Van Rijn's already starting to make a move down the right hand side. So Crone Daly is actually there attacking mid for the left. He's not the greatest at tracking back. So you see this opened up a huge amount of space. So this is what we've sort of basically focused on. And you see something happening right here. Van Rijn is, because we've got the exploit the flanks on down the right, our players sort of naturally come out this way. Also because he's the attacking wing back here, and the Dykes is the midfield, sort of the support role. Dykes has actually basically halted his run, and he's sort of hanging back here, marking Emnes here, whereas Van Rijn has continued his run. It's come out to Nuri, who's sort of drifted in, and this is Williams here, so this is their defending the left here. Nuri's, by drifting in, has actually brought in Williams, drawn him to him, and actually made him quite narrow. Whereas actually, see out here, this is their right back actually marking Fisher. He's a lot further out. So it's opened up a lot of space. Easily fits a sort of an easy ball through to Van Rijn, and there we go. Van Rijn's got all the space in the world to actually make a run into the box here. So that's sort of what we sort of fixed before. Is we sort of left our defensive line a little bit deeper, which sort of draws them out, and then it sort of opens up a lot of space down the flanks and sort of, through the middle as well. So that's sort of a bit of an indication about what we've done. And seeing Dykes here sort of hanging back, I mean, he's not going to hang back every single attack. Like if Van Rijn hangs back, Dykes goes forward, so they're actually pretty good about sort of alternating it. But you can see here, because he's like very close to Emnes, this should prevent sort of Emnes getting a lot of sort of easy balls out to him, because Dykes is sort of going to mark him fairly easily. That should mean that he should be sort of fairly well shut down, and given they're having most of their attacks down the right, hopefully pattern repeats itself over the game. If it does, if we sort of keep getting this sort of overlap here, this 1-on-2, or 2-on-1 I should say, we're going to have a fair bit of success here. Can you actually see there's all these gaps appearing everywhere? So Ebersilio here is their sort of defensive mid, and he's actually starting to be drawn across. So actually continue the game on here. He's sort of, you can actually see he's getting drawn across because Williams has to get drawn out wide. And now you've got all this bunch of space in the middle for Nemanja G, who's our attacking midfielder. Milik is our striker, and then you've got, this is obviously Buzzware, he's our defensive guy, defensive deep line playmaker sitting back. He's a really good out, if we need to sort of come back to him. And then Jensen's sort of hanging back a little bit because he's the box-to-box. You can see Fisher's also coming back a little bit. He's going to make a sort of a bit of a late run. I have no idea what happens here either, by the way. So you can see there, Van Rijn, someone in, it got intercepted, and it comes across. And there you go. So the attack came to nothing. But that sort of was a good indication about sort of, how we've actually set up our, our structure now and how we're actually setting up to play. And as you see again, Nuri drifting in has attracted the attention of Williams. Crone Deli is a rubbish marker. So Van Rijn's free again. And he should, he's drawn out 2 players now. And then Barsware's got some room. And, we're just finding space all over the pitch, which is quite good. I'm fairly happy about this. Now we've got some space out wide with Dykes. So he's saying one thing. There we go. So actually that was, there we go. I actually hadn't seen that. This is sort of real time. So there we go. That was a good sort of way to show it. So that was really good indication. That was sort of, that sort of culminated that in that first attack. Like it was all sort of one attack. Like, the first one got, when we had that space down the right when I first showed you guys, that sort of got beaten away. But then we came back and we sort of had we were over here. We drew a lot of attention and we switched to play. And Dykes made a sort of a really good run, had the space, sent a brilliant cross in, and then there we go, that was the goal. So there we go, guys. Hopefully you found that little sort of tactical thing a little bit useful. And I'll probably pause the video and we'll see you at the end of the game, hopefully with a win. Okay, so a 5-2 win. So we've scored 3 goals in the second half, which is good. So what I'm actually going to do, guys, given that we've actually sort of been struggling a little bit in terms of form, we haven't been playing that well, I'm actually going to run through sort of another analysis of the second half and see how we go, see whether the changes we made actually sort of did what we wanted to, and sort of look at some other stuff. So it may end up being a very long episode, which I do apologise for, but I think it's worth doing. I think I'd probably rather do it now than rather put it into a new episode. So yeah, so it was a very, very good win. So I'm going to say that was great, and everyone's really happy. Good for morale. Good win to get us back on track, so that was good. Alrighty, so what we're going to do, continue to post-match. What I'm going to do first, I'll show you the highlights, I'll show you the goals here. So actually I'm just thinking about it. I used to play sort of in 2D all the time. But then obviously like the 3D match engine does have its benefits. Like with 2D obviously you can't sort of see headers and things like that, but I think the two, like I know everyone may not agree, maybe this is a bit of an old school thing, but I think the 2D is just, it's so much better just to see formation and movements and things like that. And I'm very big on like formation and positioning of players and stuff like that, and how players are actually moving. Like I love off the ball movement. That's sort of one of the big things I love, and love training into the players. So I'm thinking actually probably start playing with the 2D a little bit more, and you just get a little bit of a better idea about how everyone's sort of moving and working together as a team. Can be a little bit difficult sometimes in the 3D engine. So if you guys really don't want to see this sort of 2D stuff, let me know, and we can do something about that. So alright, so that was the first goal. As you can see, it came from a corner. Milik won the first header, then Buzzware scored sort of the rebound, which was good. So that was a fairly sort of stock standard goal. Nothing too tactically interesting in that one. So just it's how the play went. This is our goal as well. I think we went 2. I'm sure we went 2-0 up. Yeah, we did. All right. So that was won the ball back. Spreads the play. Dykes brings the ball forward. Fisher picks it up. So again, you actually see the sort of the intelligence of Fisher here. He picked the ball up. He's actually managed to attract basically 2 players. He's taken 2 of their midfield players in their defensive midfielder and their attacking guy completely out of play now. And all that's left is actually proper. It's actually, you've seen this box in here. It's actually basically 3-on-1 now. So we should be able to take advantage of this. Obviously, they recover fairly quickly, and Milik does a brilliant job again by having the deep lane playmaker. It's why I just love the deep lane playmaker. I think the deep lane playmaker, if you get a good one, someone has really good off-the-ball movement, which is basically sort of what this was. He sort of made this movement into midfield. Someone with a really good off-the-ball movement. You actually see he's taken out their entire midfield. He's drawn their entire midfield to him with one movement, and then he splits the pass off again. Obviously, they recover fairly quickly, but just if you keep switching them over and pulling them apart, pulling formations apart like this, eventually they're going to have gaps because they're running all over the place. They're not defending as a solid unit. They're sort of scrambling too much. And you look at these gaps, like you see this big gap running through their centre backs here, because Fisher's stayed wide intelligently. He stayed wide and actually attracted their attention, their fullback. Now, because their midfield has been taken out of play, they haven't tracked Milik once he passed the ball off properly. So he's moved forward. He's got this big, massive gap through the middle now, and there's also this sort of gap in here. We've got this whole sort of space out wide. Williams sort of made a mistake. He got drawn into the centre. Now he's actually sort of had two players out wide here. So this already is shaping up really well. We actually see now, because Williams was out of play, because he got drawn into the midfield, what's happened to him, their centre-back has had to come across now, and then basically that whole back line has had to shift across to cover Williams' error, or his positional error, I should say. So now what's happened is we had all this space out on the right, now the space has opened up on the left, and Milik and Fisher, obviously realising this, are staying out wide, staying back a little bit, and they're making the runs in now. And see Fisher's completely vacant there in the fast corner. Ends up being Milik who makes a really good run into the near post and just gets the flick on. But you can sort of see how that was sort of a team goal and how we actually set that up really well. So that was very, very pleasing. Alrighty, the next two goals are ones we conceded, which were very disappointing. So we'll run through these. Have a look at anything we can sort of pick up here tactically, any sort of things that we're noticing. Nothing too much here. We're doing fairly well. Got this nice little sort of block in here, which is what we want. So Buzzware is sitting there fairly well. Our fullbacks are sitting there fairly well. Fairly happy at the moment. This is sort of the problem here is Van Rijn made the decision to come out and engage Kroon Deli, who drifted inwards, which forced Buzzware to drop back into to cover his role there. Which then opened up this space, and because our midfield guys probably didn't really track them better enough or well enough, so opened up some space here for these two guys to run into a lot of space through the centre, which then draws our centre back out. Now we're 2-on-2 in the box here, which is not an ideal situation. You always want at least a extra guy. So that's fine, and then he sends it through. There you go. So that should basically, you can actually see sort of the build up of the play there and how it actually eventuated. So I would actually say that was probably, that all started with a error from Van Rijn, his decision to actually come out and engage when he probably didn't really need to be perfectly honest. Like, you understand why he did because the guy had the ball, no one was picking him up, but him doing that sort of compromised the whole defensive shape. Obviously, he does have closing down set on fairly high, both our wing-backs do, so that could be that sort of a thing that if you actually see your fullbacks coming out to engage too often, it's pulling your team shape apart. Maybe you should actually drop them back a little bit, drop their closing back down a little bit, so actually sort of don't close down. Because obviously closing down, it's sort of a, I usually think of closing down as like a circle. So the more closing down, like the higher the closing down you actually set up, the bigger the circle is. So basically the further out they're actually getting to engage. So if you sort of think about it, like a low closing down setting, I'm not even sure if this is right, by the way, guys. So this is just how I've always interpreted it. So a very low closing down setting, I sort of think of like a little sort of circle around the player. So he's basically not going to engage anyone and go out and close them down until they actually get quite close to him. Whereas a very high closing down sort of, is a fairly big circle, which means he's actually going to come out a long way, leave his position, his defensive position, come out and engage a fair way from his position, which obviously can cause problems. So that's the sort of thing that you should be looking out for in your goals and stuff. If you notice patterns, like don't make changes based on this one goal. So I would never make a change based on this one goal because stuff happens. Players make mistakes. Obviously, you're playing. You also got to think that you're playing against 11 other very intelligent, good footballers as well. So sometimes they're just going to be too good for you. That's just football. That just happens. But if you're noticing consistent things like your fullback, like say for example, your right fullback is getting drawn out of position too much, like a lot. You just notice it every time you're watching the goals. That's something that you should look at changing. So just a bit of an example there. Alrighty, so we'll jump into the next goal. This was 2-2. So we've actually done pretty well. So we're sort of in a fairly good shape here at the moment. We've got most of our guys back a little bit. Where's Barzaware? Alright, so he's actually dropped back here as well into this sort of back line here. So two centre-backs are very, very narrow here, marking their striker. This is sort of because I would suspect this is because we actually got tight marking on their striker here because we didn't want any headings. Didn't want any sort of free headers. So he's actually attracted the attention of these two guys. So this is Barzaware. He's dropped back here to cover. And then this is Dykes out here engaging. That's fine. He actually rushes back and we sort of go back to our normal setup here, which is fine. So I actually say this is fairly good. I'm fairly happy with this. At the moment, we're doing fairly well. There's nothing major. I'm pretty happy with this. Like, we've got our two strikers onto their one. That's totally fine. Van Ryan's got this guy covered. We've got Nuri's actually tracked back as well. So we've got two on one in this area. We've got 2-on-1 in this area. We've got 1-on-1 here, but that's fine. We've got 2-on-1 here. So I'm not really worried. This should be totally fine. There should be no problems from this. So Emnes sends the ball in, and you can see what happens here already. He gets a quick cross off, which is sort of the whole point of our our tactical settings in the start of the game was to sort of set up this situation, or to prevent this situation. We wanted to funnel all the balls inwards because this is where we're the strongest. Like naturally with our formation, we've got the two centre backs and we've got our defensive midfielder. Plus sort of the two midfield guys in front of him as well. So it should mean, in theory, in defensive, if everyone does their jobs properly, we should have our two centre backs, our deep lying playmaker, and our two midfield guys all in this little central area here, which means that there is no way in hell that we should ever concede a goal through the middle. So given they had a good heading striker, or striker with good heading, we wanted to prevent them from having crosses in, because if we could funnel them into the middle, they were just going to get blocked up with too many places. There was just no way that they were going to get through our players here. So this is sort of one of the instances where our guys haven't done that properly. We haven't sort of funneled him into the centre here. Van Ryan loses his man once he comes in. He was basically goal side, but you would suspect that he basically lost sight of where his guy is. So you actually see, I'm not sure if you guys can see, I actually see like two little feet markers here, which actually sort of is their indication of where they're actually facing. So we should go into the new 2. Load. Did that work? Where are we? Yeah, so you actually saw maybe this one's a little bit better for you guys to say. So you actually see Van Ryan was basically facing the wrong way, and he actually lost track of the guy. Corin Daly made a good sort of late run in and sort of tapped the ball in there, so that's sort of an indication of, yeah, so I mean, the first one, they were both basically defensive mistakes, I would say, individual defensive mistakes. And then this is sort of the second half. So I think I've actually shown this one already, guys. So I'm just going to run this forward a little bit. As we see, obviously Van Ryan had a lot of space out wide here, which is good. Van Ryan gets a ball in, gets knocked out. He sends it back in again, and then they clear the ball. So that was good. So we had an attack. It got repelled, but that's fine. But we send the ball in again with Barzaware. I hate that view. Sorry, that just looks like they're ice skating again. I'm going to switch back to the 2D Classic. Sorry, guys. Apologies if you don't like this view. It's just what I'm used to seeing. So it's a lot easier for me to sort of see this one. Alrighty, so there we go. Alright, so Van Ryan. Nuri's attracted the attention there. Fullback, we've already been off this anyway, so I won't really commentate too much. Attracts attention. Bazware's got the ball. Sends it across to Jensen. Then we switch to play, which is really, really clever. So we've actually sort of pulled all their formation across here. You actually see this is their defensive midfielder. This is their fullback, obviously their wide player, and their midfielders. You actually see sort of their three midfielders actually out on the right here. So this is sort of our central player here. You actually see basically all their three midfielders are almost sort of past him. So they've all been attracted the attention out here, which is fine. Emnes is sort of in no man's land. He's sort of not really doing anything. Mitchell Dykes is taken up a really good position, which is quite pleasing. He's stayed out wide, which is what we want our fullbacks to do. This is the whole point of, and the whole reason that fullbacks in this, or wingbacks in this formation, are so incredibly important. Because you see, it's very, very congested through the middle here. But doing this, having our wingbacks out wide, once he gets the ball through, he makes a really good run out wide, and it sort of pulls their formation apart, and they don't really know what to do, and they're sort of all over the place with their like their centre backs and their, like this is their centre back here, this is their other centre backs, and you see that's their first one, that's their second one, massive big gap between their centre backs here, which means their defensive midfielder has had to drop back, but they're sort of all over the show. And this is what you want to do. You want to basically pull them apart. Dykes makes a brilliant run, sends a brilliant ball in, and Manu G just comes in and taps it in. So that was very, very good. That was a very, very, very good team goal, and sort of really highlights the tactical, reason, that tactical way we want to play. Very probing and stuff. And then when we get a good opportunity, we're like, ruthless, quick play. I'm not, I don't want to, hold the ball, every day under the sun and stuff, and just, hold it indefinitely. I'd rather, actually have some quick play and stuff when we need to. Alrighty, so this is the fourth goal. Van Rijn, Bosware sends it in. So again, we're coming out on the right here. Most of our play did start on the right. Milik drops deep, which is good. Our two attacking inside forwards are still doing well, taking a high position, which, if you look at this, by them taking a high position, it prevents their back line from coming out to engage, which has left this space open here. But now you see what actually happened is Nuri and Fisher staying forward has meant that their sort of back line has had to stay back. But because then this space open up here, their two centre-backs have actually both come out to engage. Nemanja G slips the ball through to Fisher. Their right back here is really bad in marking. He should have picked up Fisher a lot better. Fisher picks it up, gets sort of the knock on, opens up the space, and Nemanja G just tosses it into the back of the net. So again, a very good team goal. We're sort of quite probing and patient and that kind of stuff. So it's the type of goals I like seeing. Personally. Alright guys, apologies for this such a long episode. We're running about 50 minutes by the time this is done, but I think it's worth it. We need a little bit of a tactical tweak or a little bit of a tactical rejig after our not best great run of form. Alrighty, so I had a shot on goal there, resulted in a corner. This is the corner coming in. Sinkgraven takes it. Fisher comes across, and then Heidinger just sends it so basically in. So there's not really anything tactically in there. Which is fun. Alrighty guys, that was all the highlights there, which is done, so you can see all the goals there. I'm going to do a really quick little analysis of this second half. So it's actually good with the pro zone stuff now here. You can see the second half, so I'm going to start from the second half and actually see how everything went. So we're going to look at positional stuff first. We're going to look at with the ball, with us. Pretty stock standard, nothing too much to notice here, to be honest. Ah, cool, they've finally fixed this. This is awesome. In the first, this must have been a new thing with the patch. So before you couldn't actually see the names of the people on the positional thing. So this is really good. So having the position names come up in here, which is a lot better. Alright, so nothing really too much in here. Nuri's gotten a lot further forward. This is Eunice. Alright, so this is interesting. That's Nuri. When did he get replaced? Eunice, interesting. Alright. There's probably not too much there, to be perfectly honest. I'm not really seeing anything major. It's sort of a little bit over the show, because obviously second half can be a little bit like this because you do have like a lot of changes. So you can sort of get players sort of out of position, which is fine. So what about PSV? Not too much there, really. Although, interestingly, you can actually see the difference. So you can actually see our defensive line here. That's there. If we drop this back to the first half, just the first half, there's our defensive line. So you can actually see that our defensive line in the second half, because we dropped it back, was a little bit further back. Which in turn, I'm hoping that PSVs would have been a little bit further forward then, because hopefully we drew them out a little bit further. So we can go over to PSV. So this is their second half. So you can see they're sort of about there, that sort of position. And if we switch it to the first half, yeah, there we go. In the first half, they were a lot deeper. I mean, it could be two reasons, obviously, because they were chasing the game. They may have gone a little bit more attacking, which would have pushed up their defensive line. But I'm going to take credit for the fact that we dropped our defensive line, which would have pushed them forward. So this is the first half. You can see they were really quite deep. In the second half, though, they were a lot further forward. They were really a lot further forward, which is good. Which opened up a lot of space for us, sort of down the sides and behind and stuff like that. So that's a good little thing about it if you're sort of playing, especially when you're playing teams that just park the bus. They don't do anything. You actually sort of, a lot of the time it's actually good to play a fairly deep defensive line because you actually want to draw them out. You actually want to basically force them to come out and meet you, which opens up space. And it's really one of the only ways you can really break down a really stubborn, deep defensive line. So, cool, right, so that's good. I'm not really going to look at all of that. What about positional heat map for the second half? Yes, nothing really shows up there, does it, actually? Yep, fine. Interesting. Alrighty, what about mistakes? No, that's fine. What about passing, actually, just see where our passes were. Why is this not showing up? AFC. Alright, there we go. What about positional heat map now? There we go. Yeah, great, nothing. Cool, right, passes. So it was actually a little bit more varied, which is interesting. So obviously in the first half, we had a lot of clustered down this right-hand side. But in the second half, we didn't have as many down the right-hand side. It was a little bit more spread, which is interesting. Actually, probably even a little bit more down the left. So that is interesting. Received, yeah. We're actually a little bit busier down the left, which is interesting. I'm not really quite sure why that would be. Alrighty, cool. What about crossing? Yeah, didn't have a whole lot, actually. What about PSV? Do they cross much? No, they didn't. Alright, so they had a lot of crosses in the second half intercepted, which shows that they actually tried to cross a lot more, but it didn't really work. So what about our heading stuff? Our aerial challenges. Alrighty, so this is our box in here. We've won these ones. Only won one in the opposition penalty box, which is not as good as the first half. That's fine. Lost, didn't lose any in our defensive area, which is very, very good. So quite pleasing there again. What about PSV? So they won, only won one in their defensive area, or their attacking area. Yep. And they lost, that's their offensive stuff, isn't it? That's their offensive. Yeah, and this is their defensive. Yep, cool. Cool. Alright, so nothing's really jumping out at me at the moment, guys. To be honest, successful interceptions, missed. To find about us. Missed, we didn't miss any in our defensive, which is good. Scoring chances of movement. So not really a whole lot to notice there. What about PSV? Not really a whole lot there. Obviously, Mnez was probably their most dangerous player again. He had a few dribbles out wide. Didn't have any sort of crosses and stuff though. So missed interceptions for PSV. What about for us? Mistakes. Missed interceptions. Lost the ball a few times through the middle, which is interesting. Alright guys, so nothing really jumps out at me there, to be perfectly honest. Nothing sort of major. But yeah, so that's good. I mean, obviously, yeah, it's good. We played well. We won 5-2, so very happy with that. Alright guys, apologies that this is a massive episode. I just sort of wanted to get through to that, so I think that was quite important. So personally, I've got a better understanding of how the tactic work and stuff like that. So yes, that was interesting. Hopefully you guys found that interesting. We're now up to second, which is good, even though we've lost one game and drawn 3. So only 1 point behind Feyenoord. So haven't had the best start, but hopefully we should be able to kick on from here. Alright guys, hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Hope you're enjoying this series. And as always, it'd be amazing if you could subscribe to the channel and like the video if you haven't done so already. That would be enormously appreciated. Alright guys, hope you've all had a wonderful day, and I'll see you all for the next episode.